Chapter 9, and please note that there is a trigger warning for an attempted sexual assault in this chapter. I left my dirty dishes on the nightstand. Sheila could grab them later. I then opted to shower and get dressed. I covered my jeans and t-shirt with my robe, just in case Dottie or Jazz decided to check upon me. I packed up all of my items and closed my suitcases so they would be ready for my departure once I returned from Kiratpur. After everything was packed and sorted, I sat on my bed and listened carefully as the house fell silent. It was midnight, but I didn't dare sleep, fearing that I might not wake up in time. Lady Luck seemed to be siding with me, since Ekant wasn't coming home until the following evening from his business trip. Around the same time, I would be headed back. Shotu being with Ekant meant there was no one downstairs in the courtyard to catch me sneaking out of the house. It was almost too easy. So while I waited out the night, I indulged in another book, checking the time every so often. I would have to leave a bit earlier, as Daddy often woke up at the crack of dawn for her first set of purrs. At precisely 5:30 a.m., I grabbed my backpack and carefully placed my father's urn inside. I swung the backpack over my right shoulder, rubbing my increasingly heavy eyes as I tried to fight off the ensuing drowsiness. This was not the time to get sleepy. I opened my door as quietly as I possibly could, and was overjoyed when I heard Daddy snoring next door. The house was still dark, with the only glimmer of light coming in from the east, where the sun was preparing to rise. I didn't have much time. Daddy would be getting up very soon. I pulled out my Canadian house keys, which I was now grateful I had brought along with me. Contained in the bundle of keychains was a tiny flashlight, a necessity for small towners. I quickly flicked it on and tiptoed downstairs and out into the courtyard. Upon reaching the front gate, I glanced around me. There was no one in sight. I thanked my lucky stars again when I saw that the family cow, tied beside the gate, was also flat on its stomach without a care in the world. Perfect, I whispered. The gate was way too creaky to risk opening, so the only option remaining was to climb the wall. I secured my backpack around both shoulders and climbed onto the barrels against the front door. This shouldn't be too difficult, Isha. You're an athlete. Just climb up and jump over. And, well, land on your feet, I said, scratching my head. Okay, get it together. Here goes nothing. I jumped up and grabbed hold of the top edge of the wall. Quickly planting one foot firmly against the wall, I pulled myself up and leaped over without hesitation. Fast and quick, just like a professional climber. My gym teacher would have been very proud. I checked my watch, 5:40 a.m. I still had 20 minutes before Dea was scheduled to arrive. I casually walked to the end of the street and sat down on the bench outside the chemist's shop, as I had told Sumi I would. I hoped Dea would show up before anyone realized that I wasn't in the house. There were a few men straggling along the street, but paid no sorry, there were a few men struggling along the street, but no one paid any attention. Just as I had assumed, Ekant was worried for nothing. Looking at my watch, I saw that another 10 minutes had gone by and my patience began to grow thin. The sky was becoming lighter. Daddy definitely would be getting up by now. My leg began to shake. My leg began shaking fiercely. They had to show up before it was too late. I breathed a sigh of relief when the headlights of a car finally appeared and slowly approached the bench where I sat. There was a lone driver who rolled down his window as I stopped the car in front of me. It was a silver car. Dea had arrived. Thanks, Sumi, I whispered as I walked towards the car. He looked a decent fellow with large, defined eyebrows, a mushroom cut, and he was clean-shaven. Despite the haircut, he wasn't so bad looking. Dea, right? I asked with a smile. He returned my smile, but remained silent. Perhaps he was shy. I was a foreigner, after all. I've been waiting for you for a while. Shall we get going? I asked eagerly, as the rays of the sun grew stronger by the minute. Sure, of course, jump in, he said. His eyes seemed to widen as I smiled back. I ran around to the passenger side and got into the car, grateful that I had successfully escaped the house unnoticed. So how long will it take to get there? I asked, buckling up. There, he asked. The bus station, New Delhi. Didn't Sumi tell you where you're taking me? I need to catch the bus to Kiratpur. Oh, yes, the bus station, New Delhi, of course. Sorry, really early, you know, he said with a sheepish laugh. Don't worry, I will take you anywhere. Anywhere can wait. The bus station is fine now. So how long? I asked again. Not too long, dear, he replied as we returned onto the main road. Dear? My muscles immediately tensed, hearing him use such a sexist tone with me. However, right now, I was just thankful he was helping me out. I took a deep breath and looked out the window as we drove onto the bridge, taking us over the Yamuna River and into New Delhi. The city looked beautiful and almost innocent as a new day began. So, dear, how long can you be out? He asked once again with that dear. Listen, I appreciate you giving me a lift and all, but you can save the endearments for Sumi, okay? I said, annoyed. Sumi, he asked. Oh, yeah, Sumi, Sumida, your fiancé, I said, surprised that he failed to acknowledge her name. Yes, of course, he said after a long pause and in a slightly more serious tone. Something about his reply unnerved me. Who was this guy? No, shut up, Isha. What are you thinking? Sumi had said that Dea would come to the meeting place in a silver car. It would be too big of a coincidence for a guy to show up in a silver car at the same time and place. Impossible. Or was it? As I battled my growing suspicions and discomfort, Dea, or hopefully Dea, continued to speed through the streets of New Delhi. Signs directing the way to the airport, parliament, and various monuments and parks were showing up. The roads were slightly getting crowded as vendors prepared for another busy day in the markets. Businessmen, students, and laborers were also appearing sporadically as we zipped through the streets. Unfortunately, these roads were unfamiliar to me. When I had arrived at Chotu, it was in the thick of the night. Right now, the sun was casting its rays over the city, and I didn't recognize a single thing. Passing by another traffic light, I saw a sign indicating that the ISBT was just ahead. Good, at least we were going in the right direction. I was being silly for no reason. This had to be Dea. As we approached the entrance to the station, he didn't stop. Instead, he drove right through and headed towards the parking lot. Dea, it's okay. You can drop me at the front. I can manage from there, I said. No, it's okay. I will take care of you, he said in a soft tone. He continued to drive the car slowly towards the back of the still deserted lot. He constantly moved his head around as if he was looking for something. This time my gut told me that something was definitely not right, and it was time I made sure. I picked up my backpack with one hand and unbuckled my seatbelt with the other. So Dea, Sumi never told me how it was when you two first met. I mean, were you really okay with your parents arranging your wedding to a girl that you'd never met before? Well, strangers are not so bad, especially female strangers, he said as he stopped the car and killed the engine. Besides, he said, turning to face me, there is time for me to get to know her. He then proceeded to lick his lips and smirk. Oh shit, Sumi had said she and Dea knew each other and had been in love since they were kids. This is not Dea. I froze as the realization of my predicament registered. I struggled to get my head together and suppress the trembling that was increasing at an exponential rate as this stranger just sat there staring at me. His eyes were tracing my body, locking onto every part, every angle, as if he were trying to mentally undress me. Isha, get out of the car, now. I said, clearing my throat. Oh, so thanks for the ride. but I should go. I turned to open the door, but he reached over and grabbed my wrist. What is the hurry, dear? He said playfully. We are just getting to know each other. I think I know you pretty well, I retorted, trying to free my wrist. But his grip was too tight. I tried to think back to my high school self-defense classes. Was it twist and pull back or pull back then twist? What was the point of all those classes if a girl couldn't remember when she needed it the most? I only had one choice left. The old street way of handling things. Oh yeah, and just one more thing, I said through clenched teeth. I'm not your dear. I swung my right arm and made contact with his left eye. He immediately lost his grip on my wrist. I pushed open the door and jumped out of the car as he held his face and howled behind me. You stupid bitch, he yelled as he kicked open his door and stumbled out after me. I slipped both arms through the straps of my backpack and raced towards the station building. There had to be someone inside. As I continued to run, my assailant continued to gain momentum and was now at my heels. Get the hell away from me, you pervert, I screamed, hoping that I had damaged his eye enough that he'd tripped over himself as he chased me. You whore, wait, you just wait and watch what I do when I catch you, he barked. Ha, just try. I'm not some helpless Indian chick, you pervert. Stop it, pervert, pervert, I screamed, running as fast as I could. Shut up, pervert, I yelled, taunting him. It probably wasn't a good idea, but whether it was adrenaline or stupidity, at this point I couldn't control myself. I jumped over the curb and made a hard left, racing head on towards the front doors. Please be open, please be open. I was overjoyed to find the doors unlocked. As I burst through them, I ran into the lobby, desperately seeking someone, anyone. I quickly scanned the room for a security guard or police officer, but couldn't find anyone. There were a few families in the waiting area, a clerk behind the ticket window, and a few lone men wandering about. I ran to a middle-aged man in a gray business suit who looked somewhat civilized. He looked up from his newspaper as I approached. Sir, I need your help, I cried. I'm quite busy, young lady. Why don't you go speak to the guard or someone, he said, sounding annoyed. He quickly turned his attention back to his paper. No, I don't think you get it. I'm in trouble, I yelled. A few people turned my way as I raised my voice. Whatever your trouble is, I'm not getting involved. Ask anyone, and they'll tell you that it's better to stay far away from other people's troubles. These days, the police place blame on anyone and everyone. Before I could say anything further, my assailant came up behind me and clasped his hand around my mouth. He wrapped his other arm around me, locking me in. I'm so sorry, sir, he said to the businessman. My wife has these fits every so often. I always tell her not to forget her medicine, but still she forgets. He sounded so calm, like a real concerned husband. Damn him, for sure these people wouldn't fall for such a ridiculous story. That's all right, I could tell something was wrong with her. The businessman responded without taking his eyes off the paper. Was he joking? My assailant dragged me towards the nearest door, and I tried to wrestle with his every move, but he was just too strong. My eyes pleaded with people that we passed, but they either quickly diverted their attention or walked away. What was wrong with them? Why wouldn't anyone help me? He dragged me through a plain wooden door that led into an empty hallway. Here he stopped and switched his hand to my neck with one hand while he struggled to take my backpack off with the other hand. I threw my hands in every direction, trying to free myself or hit him in the process. I kicked as high and as hard as I could, but he was too fast and he was too angry. Eventually, he tore the backpack off me and tossed it to the side. Hey, that's fragile, I said, choking. Shut up. Now I'm going to show you, he sneered. Show me what, you son of a... I spat out as his grip around my neck tightened. He offered no reply and just stared at me with a terrifying determination in his eyes. He pulled me into a tighter embrace and began dragging me away again. I struggled and fought him with every ounce of strength I had left, but it was useless. My breathing was slowing down. I was starting to lose consciousness. as his grip around my neck remained steady. This was it. I was going to become headline news back home. I could already picture the headlines. My face was going to be plastered on 60 Minutes and Time magazine with testimonials from my precious girls, Dottie and perhaps Ikant. I told her it was dangerous. I could just hear him saying it. Damn it, now what? I was being dragged away. I had to look for an opportunity, something, anything that would help me escape. He burst through another door and threw me down. I stumbled to my feet, but my ribs hurt from his suffocating grip, and my back from being tossed to the tiled floor like a piece of garbage. I bit my lip, trying to conceal my pain. I didn't want him to feel that he had the advantage. The four urinals beside me indicated that we were in the men's washroom. He closed the door and locked it. Now, where are you going to run, my dear? He asked in an evil tone. He made the Wicked Witch of the West sound like an angel. Oh God, if there is a God, my mom prays to you all the times. How about you help me out here? Stay the hell away from me, I cried out as he advanced towards me. You have no idea who you're messing with. I'm a Canadian citizen. You mess with me and everyone will be after you. Everyone, so just stay away, I yelled in a last-ditch effort to scare him away. Say whatever pleases you, your heart, because no one can help you now, he hissed. My brother will kill you, damn it. He's a big Sikh dude with a dagger and all, and he's not afraid to use it. I didn't quite know or care what I was saying, but every second I spent stalling was another second I was alive. Touch me again and he'll cut you into pieces, you shit. I was definitely grasping at straws now. A sick brother? He laughed. Ha, just my luck. Well, that would make you a sick now, wouldn't it? Well, 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 I'm going to enjoy this even more. You bloody people complain so much. First you cry over your crops, and now your temple. It is a block of gold. Put it. Hey, watch your mouth, I snapped. He stopped his advance and gawked at me. I used this opportunity to look for something that I could use as a weapon. But suddenly he lunged at me. I leapt to the side, but he caught my arm and pulled me down, smacking my head against the dirty tiled floor. As I groaned in pain, he pinned my arms. I tried to pry them free, but pain seared through my head. I was quickly losing consciousness again. Like I said, he hissed, his hot, disgusting breath now in my face. I'm going to enjoy this, as no one can help you now. Do you hear? No one. Well, my friend, that depends on your definition of no one, came a voice followed by the sound of a flush. Someone else was in the washroom with us. My assailant jumped to his feet, releasing me from his hold. I held my head as the pain increased. A stall door swung open, and I looked up in the direction of the voice. Even though my vision was becoming increasingly blurred, the light was hurting my eyes. I could only see the silhouette of a tall man. Light emanated from all around him. He appeared like an angel. Who the hell are you? My assailant demanded in disgust and disappointment. I strained my ears to hear. It was as if the two men were speaking from the other side of a tunnel. Well, I am one person, but I carry the strength of my gurus. Would you like to see? He asked. I could hear the sound of water. Was he washing his hands? What kind of rescue was this? Just get out of here and leave us to our business. This has nothing, demanded my would-be rapist. Now just shut up, will you? I've already listened to enough of your nonsense when you dragged that poor girl in here and began taunting her. I now understand your intentions clearly, and well, you see, I cannot leave you. But do not worry, I promise I will not disrupt your enjoyment. We are going to have lots of fun, the stranger replied with what I hoped was sarcasm. I heard a nasty snarl and what sounded like a scuffle. Then there was a loud bang against a stall door. I tried to see what was happening, but my head was becoming heavier, and my vision darkened. Ma'am, excuse me. Excuse us as I take our friend for a little walk. I will send help, came the angelic voice. I tried to reply, but my mouth was dry, and I couldn't manage any words. He must have noticed my helpless state, because he moved closer to me and peered over. I could see his silhouette once again, but this time it was in the shape of a turban. He shifted slightly, and I saw that it was white. There was a beard, but I couldn't see any more. Have no fear, he reassured. When we need him most, he gives us strength. He turned around and disappeared with my attacker. After what seemed like hours, but was probably only minutes, I finally managed to sit up and remove my hand from my head. Just as I feared, my head was covered in blood, explaining the nausea and dizziness. My backpack, I gasped, remembering that it had been left outside the washroom, along with my father's urn. Mustering every bit of strength, I stood up and stumbled out of the washroom. In the hallway, I thankfully found the backpack still in one piece. I surveyed the area around me. The mysterious angel and the would-be rapist were nowhere to be seen, so I went out into the lobby. A uniformed man was making his way through the lobby, pushing a cart. When he saw me staggering, he started towards me curiously. Kneeling down, I unzipped the backpack and to ensure that my father's urn was still intact. Fortunately, it was. I'm so sorry, Daddy, I finally cried. Relief and regret began to set in as I realized what had almost happened. Look at what I've gotten us into. I'm so sorry. Tears streamed down my face as I carefully replaced him back in the backpack. I wiped my face and took a breath as deep as my injured ribs could allow. This was no time to cry. I still had to decide what to do next. As I stood up, sharp pains pierced my body. My vision blurred once again as I was blinded by pain. Then everything went blank as I fell.